Hello, ma'am. I think you're muted.
Started.
Okay, hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
So, shall we start, ma'am?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, okay.
Just tell me one thing. Is it like a 1 hour lecture or is it a 45 minutes lecture and then questions? Because then I'll have to manage in that much time only. Just tell me.
Ma'am, the total duration is 1 hour. If you wish to continue for the next 10 minutes, then it's okay for us.
Okay, so just let us see how it goes.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 29th day of faculty induction program. And today we will start our first session on gender equity. And we have among us an academician, feminist activist with a brilliant academic record, Professor Vageshwari Deswal, who is a professor at Faculty of Law, Delhi University. I would like to introduce ma'am a few words about her. She was the university topper and gold medalist throughout her graduation and post-graduation. And she has teaching experience of more than 20 years. And she has authored 2 textbooks and has done project on acid attacks for NCW, prison reforms for NHRC, and is currently working on pharma suicide for ICSSR. She regularly writes for leading newspapers and magazines and has a blog titled Legally Speaking for the Times of India. She is a visiting faculty at various judicial academics and administrative training institutes. Professor Deswal has been invited for lectures at India as well as abroad and has published over 50 articles in leading law journals. So it's a happy moment for us to welcome you, ma'am, for our faculty induction program. And I would like to request you to start your session on gender equity. Ma'am, please.
Thank you so much for the kind words. Okay, so this session would be on gender equity. Okay. So before we start with this session, there are 2 concepts that need to be understood. The first is gender, because there are so many people who use gender as a synonym to sex. So there is something that needs to be understood, that sex and gender, these are 2 entirely different terms, and they need to be understood what exactly one stands for. So what is gender? And the second term is equity. We need to understand what is equity and when used in relation to gender. So gender equity, what do we mean by gender equity and how it is different from the term equality? So I have prepared a presentation that I would like to share with you. So I hope everybody can see the screen now.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible, and our participants are watching your session from YouTube. And at the end of, in between your session, we will allow them to join in Google Meet.
All right. Okay. So we'll start with this session on gender equity. So first of all, let us understand what we mean by the term gender. See, sex is biological and gender is a social construct. Social construct, that is something which has been constructed by the society. So sex is something that we are born with. Okay? We may be born as a male of the human species, a female, or we may be born as intersex. Someone might be born with both with sexual organs which belong to both men as well as women, or some might be born with none. So sex is something which is determined on the basis of our chromosomal, what is composition, and the sex organs that one displays, and then the hormones which are more in a human being at the time of birth and as the person grows. So sex is something which is biological, and gender is something which the society has constructed. we have decided that what is a feminine behavior and what is a masculine behavior. So what is a role which is suited for a man? That is, he has to be a protector and a provider. So if one is born with a male chromosome, which is the Y chromosome, so he has to be necessarily a stronger person, one who has to take on the mantle of the protector, the provider. And then if one is born with two X chromosomes, so one has to naturally have a preference towards the color pink. She has to keep longer hair. She has to like playing with dolls. Okay, she has to cook. She has to clean. Like, home is her area of work, and for man it is the entire world. So gender is something which the society decides. So we have decided who is a man and woman. And what we have done, we have divided the entire human race into two neat compartments. One belongs to men, one belongs to women. And anything which does not conform to these two is something which is upsetting or unsettling for us. So something that discomfort, which causes some kind of a discomfort to us, and that is what is the others. So we have decided what is masculine behavior and what is feminine behavior. So that is what is gender, something which has been totally decided by the society. So sex is biological. Differentiation between men and women, it is natural, it is permanent. Obviously, there could be a surgical intervention. Otherwise, it is something which a person is born with, and unless and until there is a surgical intervention, it is something that a person continues with. And sex is determined by genetics. So it refers to the different biological and physiological characteristics of males and females, such as reproductive organs, chromosomes, hormones, etc. And then gender is the social construction of roles, responsibilities, and behavior patterns assigned to men and women in a given society in time, masculine, feminine. So the concept of gender, it is unique to humans. It can change over time. Through process of socialization, society provides a gender identity to males and females. It differs from culture to culture. So there are different roles for women in different cultures. Basic roles are the same, but still we have certain patriarchal societies, we have matriarchal societies also. So their roles might differ from culture to culture, and it may change from time to time. So gender refers to socially constructed roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes that a given society considers appropriate for women and men. So nowadays, what we are witnessing is a changing dimension of gender. It is not necessarily an either or. It is a broad spectrum. See, we have men, women, transgenders. You might have heard of the term LGBTQIA. So that is lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgenders, queers, intersex, asexuals. So there is a broad spectrum. And then we also talk about sexual orientation. See, as of now, majority of people are heterosexuals. So that is why society decided that what was normal behavior is heterosexual behavior. And that is why before 2018, homosexual behavior was criminalized. Even in our statute books, we had section 377, which criminalized homosexuality. It was only after the Supreme Court full bench decision in Navtej Singh Johor's case that they watered down 377. See, 377 has not been struck off. It has not been effaced from our statute books till now. What we have now is 377 in a watered down form, and now what is punishable and what is criminalized is non-consensual homosexuality. Consensual homosexuality, it has been decriminalized now. So before 2018, what we thought was that it was only heterosexual behavior which is normal, because that is what the majority wants. But what about the minorities? There are people who might be heterosexuals, who might be homosexuals, then there are people who are bisexuals, and we have people who are asexuals. But it is perfectly normal to have a sexual orientation of your choice. Now, what is normal and what is abnormal is not to be necessarily decided by those who are in the Majority. This is a planet, this is something which belongs to each one of us. So we have, each one of us have a right to express ourselves, to be what we are. That is what Article 21 of the Constitution guarantees. Right to life and personal liberty. Right to life, which is not merely an animal existence. It is right to live with human dignity. It is a right to have a freedom of expression, to choose what you think is correct for you. It is the freedom to be. So that is Article 21. So when we understand this difference between sex and gender, let us understand that it is not something which the majority can impose upon others. It is something which is whatever suits every individual. They have every right to choose what is their orientation and what is their gender. So it is something that belongs to each one of us. Then, after understanding this difference between sex and gender, now is the time to understand what is equity. You see, many times people feel that maybe equity is another term for equality. Okay, and then there are so many of us who believe that equity is something which deals with shares, debentures, and equity. But here, when we are talking in the legal dimension, we are talking about understanding equity, which talks about a preferential treatment to some people so that everybody achieves equality. So equity is a tool to achieve equality. It refers to the process of being fair to all humans, irrespective of their gender.
Excuse me, ma'am, can the slide be put in full screen mode?
Okay. Is this how it is done? Okay.
Okay, ma'am. It's okay. Okay.
So equity is a tool to achieve equality. It refers to the process of being fair to all humans, irrespective of their gender. See, equality means having equal rights. Equity means having equal opportunities. I'll just give you an example. See, in our constitution, we all have a right to food. But does that mean that each and every person in our country has food? Does each and every person have a choice to eat whatever he or she wants to eat? Does everyone have access to fulfilling their nutritional requirements? The answer is no. So what equality does is it gives us equal rights. But those rights, they exist in abstract. What equity does is it provides us all with equal opportunities to achieve those and to realize those rights, which would be meaningless unless and until we also had equity to supplement that equality. See, we all have a right to health, but how many of us can afford the expensive medical care? So, equity means providing a health care which is accessible to each and every person. So that is the difference between equality and equity. Unless and until we have equitable treatment for all, what would happen? That equality would be meaningless and it would exist only in abstract. So equity involves a differential treatment for people in accordance with their respective needs. See, when we talk about reservation for people, that is an example of equity. Because there are some people for whom the elite jobs would otherwise always remain a distant dream. Unless and until they have some sort of a reservation in education, some sort of a reservation in employment, they would never be able to compete with those who are already in the big league. So that is like reservation is an example of equity. Similarly, when we talk about maternity benefits for women, see, otherwise what would happen if a woman takes off because she has a child? That means she would lose out on her job. See, no organization would give her 6 months off unless and until it was for equity. It was for a law which enables her to take a paid leave and then again join her job, and then she would not be put to any kind of a disqualification because of her 6 months of absence. Whether it is counting for promotion or whether it is counting for increment, she would not be put to any disadvantage just because she has taken a 6 months leave. So that is an enabling factor. So it involves a differential treatment for people in accordance with their respective needs. See, patriarchy has ensured subordination of women for centuries. So what we need to do is adopt plans, strategies and measures to ensure a level playing field for people who have a socio-economic and cultural baggage. So something which will enable them to compete after shedding that kind of a baggage. There is no backwardness or there is no disadvantage that would be attached to them, and if at all there is some disadvantage, so with an equitable treatment they would be able to overcome those things. See, there are multiple disadvantages that women and transgenders face owing to their gender, that is the socialization. So equity ensures a level playing field for all. So this is an image which will exactly explain how equity differs from equality. See, equality is equal to sameness. That is giving everybody an equal right. So there are three people, as you can see in this image here, who want to pluck these apples which are at an equal height. So we provided stools to all of them. See, because we are talking about equality, so there are three equal sized stools. So now naturally the one who is short-heighted is at a disadvantage. For him, although he has a right to pluck the apple, but he will never be able to pluck that apple. So that is equality, which is sameness, giving everyone the same thing. See, it will only work if everybody starts from the same place. And then we have equity, which talks about fairness. That is access to the same opportunities. We must first ensure equity before we can enjoy equality. So you see here, in accordance with the height, the kind of support that they need, that has been provided to them individually. Okay, so there is a customized support that is being provided to each one of them, so that yes, they can enjoy the equality that has been so guaranteed to them by the laws. So you see, unless and until there is equity, equality would exist only in abstract. It would not exist in concrete. It wouldn't be a reality. So equity for gender equality. So gender equality, it refers to equal chance for women and men in allocation and access to resources and services. It is measured in terms of equality of opportunities and equality of results or reward for labor. This is possible only in a world where sex-based discrimination is non-existent. But see, for us, this sex-based discrimination is so much ingrained in us that it is impossible at the moment to envisage a world where this discrimination would be non-existent. So from the time that we are born, we have been tutored. We have been socially doctored to behave in a particular manner depending upon the gender that was assigned to us by the society at birth. So you are born with this particular sexual organ. So that is how you are supposed to behave. So, and then there is a discrimination. There are based on our socialization, there are differential roles that have been assigned to different sexes and different genders. So, unless and until there is an equality, where there is no discrimination, there would be no equality. So, gender equity refers to fairness, where fair treatment is accorded to both men and women. This equity sometimes calls for affirmative action to allow fair play, especially where two groups are competing for same resources and one has an advantage over the other, as you could see in the previous example that I gave you. Then we need to understand that absolute equality in an unequal world may be a source of injustice. If you were to make it an absolute equality, see, we are all equal, we have equal opportunities in the sense that, see, what is available to men is the same that is available to women. But then again, women, they are bogged down by so many other responsibilities that have been assigned to them by virtue of them being a woman. So although you have given them an equality, but that will in fact work towards a disadvantage, because she will never be able to compete equally with men unless and until she sheds off that extra baggage that the society has put on her. So equity is important for our economic, social, as well as cultural development. See, let me just give you an example. When we talk about uh, equality of opportunity for employment, see, as of now, women, they have to face so many multiple demotivating factors when it comes to job. Women, they have to face the sexual harassment, then they have to face a wage discrimination, then they have to face a job discrimination. See, unless and until there is an equitable treatment for women, we cannot utilize the 50% of our population, which is women, too. We cannot utilize their talent for the development of our country. So till the time those resources, they remain untapped, no economy can develop, no society can thrive. It is only when we have happy people, happy men, happy women, everybody who is being treated equally, when we recognize human worth, it is only then that any society can be happy, any society can develop. It is only then there can be a full cultural development of any people, of any society. So equity is extremely important for us to realize both economic prosperity as well as social development. Then coming to constitution and gender equity. Our constitution guarantees equality to all of us. See, sadly this term equity, it is missing from our constitution. But that is something which is inherent in the ethos of our constitution. So when we read our constitutional provisions, that is something which we need to understand that it is underlying in all these provisions. See our preamble. It declares equality of status and opportunity to all citizens. See, the constitution does not differentiate on the basis of gender. It does not say that men, women, transgenders, intersex people. It is not talking about that. It says equality of status and equality of opportunity to all citizens. So it is for us to understand that, see, there has to be a different opportunity that has to be given to men, women, transgenders, because they are already bogged down by so many other, by what I call as the additional baggage that has been thrust upon them by the society. So this equality of status and opportunity, it cannot be realized unless and until there is an equitable treatment for them. Okay. Then Article 14, equality before law or equal protection of the laws. It guarantees. So you see, nobody can deny equality at the theoretical level because that is what the Constitution declares. Okay. All our constitutional declarations, they exhort loudly that, see, this is what it is. We are all equal. Has to be no discrimination against anyone. But then what is the reality? That is very, very much different from what has been written in the Constitution. So it is all a matter of interpretation and application of the law in the correct spirit. Then we have Article 15, which forbids discrimination on the basis of race, religion, caste, sex. So there has to be no discrimination. But in the same article, it also says that state can take affirmative action and make special provisions for women. So you see, what else do you need in order to ensure an equitable treatment? So when we talk about Equal Remuneration Act, okay, when we talk about Maternity Benefit Act, so these are all examples of affirmative action which has been taken by the state and due to which we have special provisions which have been made for women so that they can get over the cultural, what again we'll say, the disqualifications that have been attached to them. So that is an enabling provision. This is sometimes also known as what we call as protective discrimination. See, ordinarily no discrimination is permitted, but sometimes we need to take an affirmative action for certain categories, like it is talking about women. Nowadays we've also made a special law for transgenders because at that time when the Constitution was enacted, we did not have so many transgenders in our country, or even if they were all in the closet. Okay? So they did not have a voice. When I say they did not have a voice, that is, they did not make any representation. They were not in sufficient numbers so as to make out a case for their rights. So at that time, we have talked only about making special provisions for women. But then there is no law which forbids us from making special provisions for the marginalized sections of our society. Then Article 16 Clause 1, it guarantees equality in matters of state employment. So irrespective of sex, whether it's a man, it's a woman, it's a transgender, there should be an equality. And then this equality would require some sort of a reservation. See, it is only then, see, otherwise, see what happens. We have granted equality of education to all women, but we all know that this equality would be existing in abstract till the time they are not being sent to schools. See what happens usually in a middle class or in a low class family, if there are two children and they can afford proper education only for one child, so it would be anybody's guess that it would be the male offspring who would be sent to school. So although there is an equality, but still the state, it will not go from one house to the other house and ask people to send their daughters to school. Okay, the state has provided equality, but in addition to that, what the state is now doing, state has come out with special schemes which encourage people to send their daughters to schools. Okay, so there are some sort of fixed deposits, so there is some sort of a monetary benefit which is given to people who are sending their daughters to schools. We have this Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao Andolan, wherein there is no school fees for young girls. There are states which have made transportation for college-going girls free, so that if they use the buses, the state transport buses, there is no money that is charged from them. So there are different kinds of schemes that the states have come up with in order to make education a reality. So it's not only that they have a right to education, unless and until they also have an equitable access to that education, right to education would exist in vacuum. So that is it. So when the state guarantees equality, whether it is in matters of employment, whether it is in matters of education, so unless and until there is an equitable treatment, this equality would be meaningless. Then we have Article 23, which prohibits a traffic in humankind and any kind of forced labor. Although I would not deny that when they are not being trafficked, I would not deny that young boys, they are not being subjected to sexual abuse, but then it is always the girls who are being more subjected to sexual abuse. So we have Article 23, which forbids traffic in all human beings, whether it is men, women, whether it is transgenders, and any kind of forced labor or bigam that has been declared as unconstitutional. Then Article 39 directs the state to formulate policies for securing equal pay for equal work. Then we have Article 42, which directs the states to make provisions for maternity relief. So you see, when we have this Equal Remuneration Act, when we have this Maternity Benefit Act, so these are all examples of these special protective provisions that our Constitution says. Then we have Article 51AE, which imposes a fundamental duty upon every citizen to renounce practices that are derogatory to dignity of women. So in furtherance of this, we have this Parda system, which has been denounced. Then we have the Sati Pratha, which has been denounced. Then we talk about Dowry Prohibition Act. So now these are all such derogatory practices. Although despite having laws, some of these practices such as dowry, they are still flourishing in the society. But then there is a fundamental duty upon each one of us to denounce these kind of practices. See, what sense does it make that I give someone my daughter and I also pay that person money to marry my daughter? Now, what kind of an arrangement is this? What kind of a practice is this? Maybe in ancient times there was some kind of a logic behind these practices. Maybe because it was a way of giving the daughters their share. But now we are in the 21st century. Every girl has an equal share in her patriarchal property. Every girl has a right to be educated. So let us focus on educating her, empowering her. Let us give her the confidence that, see, whatever is in the family, it belongs to you. It belongs to you and your siblings. The message should never be that whatever is there, it belongs to the son. Okay? And the girl has to leave the house and go to the other family. No. The children should have a confidence that, okay, this is obvious. Both of you are equal. You will be given an equal opportunity. You will be given an equal treatment in the family. You will have equal opportunities to grow, to make your careers, to make your life. So let it not be the goal that the boy has to study, the boy has to pick up a job and has to be an independent and support his family, whereas the girl has to learn to sew, to cook, to clean. Then she has to go and adjust to someone else's family and be a unpaid maid for the rest of her life. See, cooking, cleaning. Now, these are not a woman's job. These are basic life skills which everybody should know. This is something that every boy should know and every girl should know. See what we have done now? In the last century, we have focused on empowering our girls. But we have not focused upon telling our boys how to live with those empowered women. That is the reason why there are so many clashes in the society. See, while teaching our girls to be strong, we also need to teach our boys to understand and appreciate the fact that girls are their equal. They need to give up their patronizing or chauvinistic approach and attitudes that needs to be renounced. We all need to understand that, see, there is no job such as a man's job or a woman's job, and we all are equal. Whatever a girl can do, a boy can do better. See, we have so many good chefs who are men, and similarly, we have so many CEOs who are women. So there is no such thing which is a man's job or a woman's job, and based on those discriminatory practices, we need to renounce any kind of a discrimination that is derogatory to womanhood. And that is a fundamental duty that has been enjoined upon us. Then we have Article 243D and 243T, which were added in our Constitution by the 73rd and 74th Amendments, which have reserved 33% of seats in panchayats and municipalities in favor of women. You must have seen that initially women would be no more than a rubber stamp. When these reservations came into force, we would see those posters in which, okay, this is the woman who is standing for the particular post, but it is the husband whose picture is there in the front. And then there is this lady also, because she has no identity except that she is that man's wife. And it is that man who would be running the show. She is no more than a rubber stamp. She is contesting the election because she is married to that man. We will be doing all the canvassing, and obviously he'll be taking all the decisions. But then slowly and steadily, it has been now 30 years since we had these amendments, and now we have seen that women, they have come into their own, and yes, they are calling the shots. Now they have actually this decision-making power. It has started vesting in them now. So this is how slowly law has led to a change. Then equality between men and women. It requires a differential treatment. See, there are many people who say that on the one hand, you say that men and women, they are equal, so there should be no differential treatment. We should not be discriminating against women. And then on the other hand, you are talking about preferential treatment to women. So they say that defeats the very idea of equality when you are giving preference to a particular section over the other. But then, see, there have been centuries of patriarchy which have done an irreparable damage. So that would require a differential treatment. So now this slide, it is devoted to this only. Let us understand why equality between men and women, it requires a differential treatment. One, men and women are structured differently. That is something which we will all accept. You see, there are certain biological differences. Science is one thing, and biology is not to be defeated by that. So men and women, they are structured differently, and that is why when we talk about maternity benefit, so that is something which can be availed of by only a woman. But still, I am totally game that, see, we could have had a law which said that all human beings bearing children are entitled to a maternity benefit. That could have very much been done, because see, when we say maternity benefit for women, so men folk feel that it is something special which has been granted to them. Okay, but then what is it that men have been deprived of here? Are they being deprived of something here? Can a man bear a child? The answer is no. So even if the law was worded like this, that all human beings bearing children would be entitled to a maternity benefit, See, nursing is again something initial 3 months, 4 months, it is exclusively the woman's job. But then it is not that every woman nurses her child. Similarly, it is not that every woman bears a child. So the woman who does not bear a child, she will not be entitled to a maternity benefit. Similarly, when we talk about this maternity benefit, so it is something which is to be given to a woman exclusively for the initial 3-4 months because she is the one who is nursing the child. But for a woman who is not nursing the child, it is something, nursing is something which is a function which can be performed even by the man. Okay, the child, the baby can be fed with a bottle also for if the mother's milk is not available. So you see, in such things, yes, we have a provision for maternity benefit. I totally agree when people say that maternity should not be totally a woman's job. See, again, child rearing is both a man's as well as a woman's job. The child belongs to both of them. It is just that a woman needs time to recuperate. It is the initial days when certain biological functions as nursing, they are to be performed exclusively by women, and that is what justifies giving maternity benefits to women. But then beyond that, it is paternity benefit which can be given to both. So maternity benefit, it could be made gender neutral after a specific time. See, if it is 6 months of maternity break, initial it could be taken by the mother. After that, it could be decided whether the mother wants to avail of it or whether the father wants to avail of it. But the initial maternity benefit, it is something which only women are entitled to. So that is because men and women, they are structured differently. Then a woman's perspective is different from men. Now, it is not because something, it is not a perspective that it is she is born with. It is a perspective that has been shaped by the society. Okay, that is why a woman sees the world in a different way. That is because her lived experiences are different from those of men. The law, it is based on male experiences and male dominance. The values and dangers that characterize women's lives are not reflected at any level. See, when we talk about the basic of our laws, like let me give you an example from the Indian Penal Code, which is the most basic of our criminal statute in our country. It is the main substantive law related to crimes in our country, Indian Penal Code. What it says, unless the contrary appears from the context, the term man is to be taken to include the term woman. The pronoun he is to be taken to include the pronoun she. Now see, wouldn't it make more sense if it would say that the term woman includes man? Because see, WOMAN, it naturally includes MAN. FEMAL, he includes MAL. Female includes male. She includes he. So you see, but the way the laws have been drafted, that is because law is based on male dominance. I do not say that it was deliberate. I would like to believe that maybe there was some sort of an oversight. The reason being that since times of social contract, it has been men who have been in the main dominating position. Due to which, what is reflected in laws which have been made by them is their own experiences and their own dominance. And that is why women, they have been relegated to a background. That is why they could not appreciate the dangers and the values that characterize women's lives. And that is why, see, sexual harassment, women started working. But sexual harassment, which is such a dark reality of everybody, of every woman's life, we did not have a law to deal with sexual harassment till the year 2013 in our country. Whereas you see, women, they have been working for such a long time. So that is what I say when I say that is what I mean when I say is that law is based on male experiences and male dominance. See, I could go on, but I need to draw a line somewhere because we need to complete this session on time. So then, law is informed by and it serves to reinforce patriarchal social relationship. Then gender neutrality in a gendered world might be a source of injustice. That is what we have been talking about since the very beginning of this session, that if we are just to ensure an equality, if we were to say, okay, that is gender neutral, then again, because already men, they are in such a privileged position. So it would be a source of injustice for women and the others. So component of crimes against women has accounted for 94.4% of crimes. So you see, if we have As it is, the Constitution guarantees equality. But still, we see that it is women who are suffering the most. Majority of crimes they are committed against women, whether it is inside their homes or whether it is outside their homes or whether it is at their workplaces. So, despite having all this constitutional equality, it is women who are at the receiving end. So, that is the reason why ensuring this equality requires a differential treatment, and that is what is gender equity, and that is why necessity for gender equity. We need to deconstruct stereotypes for this equity. Gender stereotypes are common presumptions or assumptions about the characteristics of the person based upon false and unproven hypothesis statements. These are preconceived ideas, whereby males and females are arbitrarily assigned characteristics and roles determined and limited by their sex. So gender stereotypes are social and cultural constructions of women and men due to their different physical, biological, sexual, and social functions. These are rooted in the traditional notions about the roles and status of women and men in society. So that is why we decide that a doctor would be a man, a nurse would be a woman. Women make better teachers, but university professors, they should be men. Okay. Then when it comes to pilots, that has to be necessarily a man. When it comes to the flight attendant, it has to be a woman, and that is why we had this term air hostess. We would not call them flight attendants. They were air hostesses because it was something which we just necessarily presume that it is something which is fit for women, because it is something that we have a role that has been ascribed to them, that women are supposed to be more caring, more nurturing. That is something which the society has decided. Now, there is nothing which would prohibit a man from being equally caring and nurturing. See, I always maintain that sex has nothing to do with these kind of roles. Sex does not limit one's capabilities to perform any roles. See, we have had men folk in our country who have been the greatest of feminists. Most of the people, they believe that a feminist has to be necessarily a woman, but no. Feminism is just an ideology which challenges the values that are inherent in patriarchy, the stereotypes that are perpetrated by patriarchy. So it could be a man, it could be a woman, anyone could be a feminist. Anyone who believes that we all are equal is a feminist. So when we talk about Ambedkar, when we talk about Raja Ram Mohan Roy, all these men, they have been the greatest feminists of all times. So you see, deconstructing stereotypes needs an understanding that human nature involves a blend of male and female attributes, and sex differences are merely biological. These differences, they have no social, economic, or political significance. Then coming to equality and the others, okay? Men, women, and the others. It is very important for us to bring those others in the mainstream, because for these others, discrimination begins at birth. Nobody is happy to have a child who does not conform to the male-female biology. So whenever there is a child who is a non-conforming child, so the parents are not happy. They have the willingness to give up the child or to subject the child to some kind of a surgery. This kind of a discrimination, which begins at birth, this continues at school also. We don't have any columns in our admission forms which talks about male, female, and other. We have only two columns, men and women. Although see in Delhi University and some other educational institutions, now we have this third category also, men, women, and others. And that is something which has to be implemented by all the other organizations and institutions also in the country. There are non-supportive families, families who want their child to conform to one of the genders. So the parents, they don't support them. Okay? There are families who have subjected their children to unnecessary surgeries, to hormonal treatments. They have taken them to sorcerers for some kind of what we call as a jhar food, some kind of these kind of social interventions and all. And then we have also had cases wherein families, they have subjected their own daughters to corrective rapes, okay, so that at least she will start feeling like a woman. Similarly, boys, there have been cases wherein parents, they try to set up their children with a girl, okay, with a sex worker, so that the boy gets a feel of being a proper male. So that is the kind of the social mindset that we are suffering from. So these non-supportive families, they do more damage rather than good. They don't acknowledge and accept their children for what they are. See, basically, as I always maintain, it's not about being a man, woman, or anyone. It is all about human worth. Every human is unique in his or her way. We are all born different. Okay, we all have a different mindset, and that is what nature has given to us. Let us respect that. Let us accept that. Who are we to decide what is normal behavior and what is abnormal behavior, or what is normal sexuality, or what is or what is abnormal sexuality? That is something which nature has blessed each one of us with. So let us accept that and let everyone be happy in what they are. Let them do whatever they think is the best for them. Then these others, as we call as, they are their institutions, they are reluctant to admit them. Nobody wants someone who does not conform to this male female binary in their organization. The society does not accept them. There are so many infrastructural handicaps that they face with. See, we have urinals for men and women. We have change rooms for men and women. We have special restrooms for women. But what about these people? They are not admitted in rooms meant for general public, for men, not meant for, they are not allowed in women's restrooms. So where would these people go? So there are certain infrastructural handicaps that need to be taken care of. And that is why we have this Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019. Although this is a very small piece of legislation, but this is a right step in the right direction. So at least we have acknowledged their existence. Before then, we had not even acknowledged them as human beings. So this transgender persons, it at least acknowledges that yes, they are human beings, they are persons, and their rights also need to be protected. So this is also an act in furtherance of Article 21, which says right to life means right to a humane existence, a life with dignity. See, human dignity is not a straitjacket idea. Rather, it involves all those rights and freedoms which enable a person to live life without encroachment upon his or her self-respect, pride, and safety. This was what the Supreme Court said in Updates in Johar versus Union of India, 2018 judgment. Then, for an inclusive society, see, we all need to understand that feminism is not anti-men and inclusivity is not anti-women. Okay? So we need to take steps in the right direction. For that, what is required is gender mainstreaming. That is making gender a part of our everyday lives. We need an inclusive work environment. That is necessary for an impactful inclusion. Merely making inclusive policies without actually translating them into practice would not have any meaning. So what we need is an impactful inclusion. For that, we need to safeguard, we need to choose our words carefully. We need to provide safe working spaces, work parity, pay parity. There should be no glass ceiling and there should be flexible work arrangements. So we'll be talking about these in detail. Gender mainstreaming. So now what is gender mainstreaming? It is a trend which is driven by both the United Nations and by the treaties of the European Commission as a major global strategy for promoting gender equality. See, gender equality here, I'm talking about men, women, and the others. It is important in order to understand the rights of all humans. It requires a change of perspective. So the subject has to change from mankind to humankind. So that is what is gender mainstreaming. When we talk about humankind, that is everybody, irrespective of their gender. They are all equal. They have all access to the same resources, same opportunities. So gender mainstreaming involves viewing things and actions through the prism of gender and then removing those disqualifications or disadvantages that a person is put through because of that gender. We need to remove those. So we need to view all things and actions through the prism of gender. We have to consider the differential impact that our thoughts, actions, and systems have on men, women, and the others. And then we need to adopt strategies that would break those inequalities. So, what this requires is planning, implementation, and subsequent monitoring, plus review at appropriate stages. See, I often give this example. But see, when I was in grade 1, so in the first chapter of my English course book, I read that it was a normal day in the life of a family. There was a family consisting of Tom and mom and dad. And then we had questions. What is Tom doing? Tom is playing with an aeroplane. What is Anne doing? Anne is playing with a doll. What is father doing? Father is reading the newspaper and sipping his cup of tea. And what is mom doing? Mom is preparing food in the kitchen. So that was something when you feed a 5-year-old these kind of things. So these are certain stereotypes that you are feeding in a child's brain. The girl believes that it's okay for me to play with the doll while my brother plays with aeroplanes and trucks and other machineries. Okay? And it is okay for the mother because to cook because her place is in the kitchen in the house, whereas the father he has to be updated with the news and whatever is going on around in the world. And the father he has to prepare himself for the day, so he will regally have his cup of tea, then he'll get ready for the office and he'll go for the office and he'll slog there. It's not that the men are not working, it's just that the roles they have been differentiated and we have fed these things in the minds of the boy as well as the girl. So what happens when they grow up? They grow up with that kind of an orientation and that kind of a belief. So in order to defeat, in order to demolish and destroy those kind of stereotypes, we need extensive planning. We need to rewrite our textbooks, our basic textbooks, which involve impact, which have such an important impact on the minds of our children. So we need to plan and we need to implement and we need to subsequently monitor plus review at appropriate stages. So the so all the people that I am addressing today, they are all from the education sector, but we are teaching students who are above 18 years of age. So for them also, we need to rework on how we are teaching them. We need to check our language, the kind of language that we use in the class. Okay? We need to mainstream gender in our teaching, in our plans, in our programs. It is not necessary that when we make committees for our organization, it is not that the sports in charge has to be a man, whereas for gender sensitization, it has to be necessarily a female. Okay. It is not necessary that home science is something which is to be taken care of women and some other things they are to be necessarily taken care of by men. We need to mainstream gender considerations in our everyday life in order to demolish those stereotypes. So depending upon what suits any person, we need to do that. Not based upon some obsolete stereotypes that have been handed down to us by our ancestors. We need to challenge those beliefs. So gender mainstreaming ensures that women and men have equal access to and control over resources, opportunities, and benefits at all levels. We need inclusive work policies. We need to adopt a gender neutral and an appropriate language. Like I gave you the example of a flight steward or a flight stewardess, we can have a flight attendant. Okay? Instead of using the word manpower, we can use personnel. So we can use gender appropriate terms. Then we need to provide gender appropriate restrooms. We have restrooms for men and women. We also need restrooms for transgenders. Because see, unless and until we are inclusive in our policies, even if we are giving admission to them, we have a column in our admission form which talks about others. But till the time you are not providing them restrooms, they will be strictly constrained to think about taking admissions. Because till the time they are not comfortable, they are feeling isolated, not accepted, it will be very difficult for them to actually take benefit of those admissions and other reservations that are being provided to them. So we need gender appropriate restrooms, whether it is in our universities, colleges, or at workplaces. We need safe workplaces. When I talk about safe workplaces, proper lit, okay, something which is visible from a distance, where there is a CCTV coverage, there are no dark spots. So there should be safety at all times, so that whether it is a woman, whether it is a transgender, they are not subjected to any kind of an abuse. We need specific HR policies towards equality with well-defined penalties for indiscretions, and those policies as well as those penalties, they need to be displayed at a conspicuous place in an organization, so that everybody knows that yes, we have a well-defined policy and we have a zero tolerance towards sexual harassment, zero tolerance towards sexual abuse and discriminations, gender discriminations. We need to ensure equality of wages. Normally what happens, women, they are denied equality in work sphere. They are given the jobs which involve more drudgery. Even if we talk about, see, suppose there is a construction going on, a construction site. We will see that one who is doing the laborer work would be a woman, and one who is the mason would be a man. Mazduri for the woman, mistrigiri for the man. Similarly, when it comes to farm work, women, they'll be doing the traditional weeding and all these things, whereas men, they would be driving these tractors and all those things. So we need to ensure equality. These are some examples that I was giving about the unorganized sector. Even in the organized sector, you see, women are denied equality in the work sphere, due to which they are then denied equality of wages. For the same work also, they are being denied equal wages. This is not in the government sector, but in the private sector, this is something that has been happening. Then women, they are seldom able to break the glass ceiling. They would be given promotions. But when it comes to the ultimate leadership positions, it would go to the men folk. So this glass ceiling, it needs to be broken. Women need to have equal access to leadership positions. So this should just gender, it should not be a discriminatory reason. We need flexible work arrangements. We need special arrangements for people with specific needs or responsibilities. Here, I'm not talking only about women. It could be anyone who could be having an aged or a sick parent or a child or a sick spouse at the home. So there might be people who might be having specific needs due to their own bodily functions, or it could be some other family responsibilities. So maybe we can have special arrangements for them. We need to have provision for work from home. So whoever wants to opt for that, whether it is partial, whether it is a complete arrangement, but we need to make flexible work arrangements. COVID has taught us this. Then we need to have flexi timing. Somebody wants to work early in the day, somebody wants to work late in the day. Okay. And then somebody wants to work 8 hours, somebody wants to work 9 hours, so that he can get an extra day off. So regarding these work hours, we need to have flexi timings. Employees should be given as far as possible a choice of a day off, so that men, women, they may decide that who needs to take care of the house or who needs to take care of the child on what particular day. So these are all considerations in order to mainstream gender in our work lives. We need to have provisions for maternity, paternity leave, nursing breaks, women, so that they can return to work. If we have provisions for crutches in the workplace, that is because what the law also says, there are many private sector organizations which don't provide for crutches. So due to which what happens, women, they are reluctant to join their work post their childbirth. If we were to provide crutches for them, if we were to provide nursing breaks for them, it would be more convenient for them to resume their work, okay, and then not lose out on their promotions and career advancements. So all these things, they need to be taken care of. Then coming to period leave. So that is something which is again a biological function that women are subjected to. There are some transgenders also who are subjected to this menstruation. So we need to have provision for period leave, because see, instead of casting a stigma on women, or just generating or ascribing to more stereotypes that okay, this woman, she is in a foul mood because she must be PMSing or whatever. Instead of that, let us understand that okay, this is something which is a hormonal disturbance, and maybe she needs a break, maybe she needs a leave for 1 day or 2 days. That is something which the state needs to acknowledge. Okay, and it's not that every time she would be needing a break. But if she wants so in a month, subject to some upper limit of say 2 days or 3 days, there should be this kind of a provision for women. We need all these kind of enabling provisions to bring women at par with men, to make this equality a reality. Again, coming to the main word, which is equity. With that, I will wind up my session. Now the floor would be open to questions.
Thank you, ma'am. So the session is open for discussion. Participants are requested to interact with ma'am.
I don't think there are any questions.
I believe there are questions.
Any
Yeah, any questions and comments from our
observations,
participants?
comments?
Yes. Any observations if you have?
Because this is an area where you don't have this like a question, what is 2 plus 2 and it is 4. This is more of an open-ended discussion. So any comments? I can't hear you.
Participants are requested to unmute your microphone and kindly express your views. So Arunima Bora is asking, what is the difference between equity and women empowerment?
See, equity is just a tool for women empowerment. There is no difference. But unless and until, see, as I told you, equality can exist in abstract. But we have to take resort to equity so that that equality can be realized. And it is only when we have that proper equality that women can be empowered. So equity is just a tool for that women empowerment. Yes, and what was the next question?
Ma'am, can you please elaborate a bit on equality of opportunity and equality of outcome?
Yeah, I'll tell you. See, what happens that we all have an equality of opportunity. Like we all have a right to work, right? Right to job, right to work, we all have. But then women, they are coerced by so many things. I mean, you have a love and affection for your family, which is a demotivating factor for you to go out and work for 8 hours. Because somewhere down the line, you feel that maybe what I'm doing is this is my time which was meant for my family, for taking care of my children. I'm taking this time out of that and I am contributing towards the work. That is because society has told me, that is a genderization, a socialization due to which we believe that it is something that is totally my responsibility, and I don't think that it is my husband's responsibility to prepare tiffins or change nappies, because that is something that I have been taught to believe. So when we talk about equality of opportunity, despite having this equality of opportunity, but there are so many things which hold a woman back. So unless and until we were to give her some sort of an advantage or some sort of a leeway or some sort of a reservation, she would not be able to compete with men folk. So that we need to have equal opportunities wherein the woman, she is not bogged down by all those responsibilities. It is only then there would be an equality of opportunity. And then at the workplace also, see, if the woman, she knows that she has to do all the work in the morning, and she has to go back again, she has to do all the work, and then there is so much of an invisible workload that a woman is carrying, because she knows that when she comes home, she has to ask the child that did the child finish his food, what is the homework that needs to be done, and is there any project that needs to be prepared. Now these are all exclusively the woman's responsibility as per the society. See, for working women, it doesn't mean that she will have any kind of a break from her other familial responsibilities. The familial responsibilities will still stay. So till the time there is no equality at the home front also, till the time the men folk are also not equally contributing in the domestic sphere, the woman will not be able to properly focus in her work sphere. due to which her work performance will suffer, her further promotions, her career, everything would suffer. And what happens? Women, they gladly put all those things on a back burner because she has been taught to prioritize her family over her own self or over her work. So what we need is, we need to tell her, she needs to understand that responsibilities, yes, if I voluntarily want to take on a responsibility, that is my wish. But if I don't want to take on that responsibility, that does not make me any lesser of a woman, that does not make me a bad mother. So one needs to understand, it is very difficult. It is something that has to come from the within, and it is something the society has to stop judging its women. Only then there will be an equality of opportunity. Otherwise, I tell you, the state has granted us such equality of opportunity, but there are so many other demotivating factors. From the very childhood, you are taught to choose a teaching job. Right? Better still, choose a school job. 2 baje ghar aa jao. You will be back at home. You can take care of your family. So these are certain things that we need to tell ourselves that no, what I want to do has to be my choice. It is not that the society will decide that, okay, because this is your primary function, so you need to choose a job also that will suit that function. And due to which others don't have to compromise. No, I need to prioritize myself also without feeling guilty about it.
Thank you, ma'am. Pranjal Vora, you may ask your question.
Hello, ma'am. It's a very nice and informative
Yes,
talk.
Pranjal.
Sorry, I couldn't
It's a very
use my
general
webcam.
Yeah.
Ma'am, actually, if I say about the equity, then can I think of the reservation policies for different section of the society? Is it the same as equity?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, then, ma'am.
Yes,
Then
exactly. See, reservation.
yeah. Then, ma'am, we can see, suppose dealing with the sub OBC section. Let us say what is there in the society prevailing, and some in the government offices it is also prevailing there. So, but if you see the background of the family and then rest of their working culture or the working situations or any job holders in the family, then don't you think that portion lies in the OBC or somewhere else in the reservation policies? I don't know whether
What
the
happens
question is
is
relevant or not.
reservation. No. No, it is slightly, we are digressing from the topic, but it is very, very relevant because, see, again, the government, we are all talking about reservations all the time, but reservations have outlived their purpose, especially when it comes to caste-based reservations. Okay, there are 3 generations of IAS officers in the same family. Okay. So what happens due to that? The people belonging to that very caste who are in the rural areas or who have not yet had the opportunity of getting the benefit of reservation, they will never get the benefit. Because those who have already availed of that reservation will continue, their families and their line will continue availing of their benefit, due to which it will not percolate down to those who actually need it. So it should not be merely caste-based reservation. There should be other factors also which should determine, and then if it is only caste-based also, even then there should be a category that is, once you have availed of it, then you move beyond that.
I
There should
hope
be
so.
this kind of a, I feel, consideration.
And I hope so that this thing will come up in the near future because as
Let's
per
hope
I.
so.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, Chitrankita Gayan has some observations. How do you ensure gender equality within the home itself across generations living together? Is there any way to educate older people in gender equality? And she said, I have one more observation. I often encounter men as well as women denying intellect to women as intelligentsia is treated as a male domain. If you could speak a bit on that too.
Generally, we are always subjected to patronizing and chauvinistic behavior. Even if you are driving and your husband is sitting with you, he'll be telling you, okay, take a turn. Okay, obviously, there's a right turn, you're going to take a turn, but then he'll tell you, okay, now you apply the brake. So this is some kind of a, as I told you, a chauvinist or a patronizing behavior that we usually encounter. But then it is up to us to put an end to it slowly. It's up to you whether you want to bring about a revolutionary change all of a sudden by telling them that, okay, this is something which will not be tolerated henceforth, or you could do it your own way, slowly and steadily. But yes, the change has always to come from within, talking to our spouse and also our children. Okay? And it has to reflect in our actions. You should not ask your daughter to help you in the kitchen while the son is asked to bring things from outside. There should be equal rules. As I told you, tell them that see, cooking is a life skill, which the boys also need to know, the girls also need to know. The boy, if he sees his sister behaving in a particular manner, then he will expect his wife also to behave in that particular manner. So again, generation after generation, the same kind of beliefs and practices, they are being handed down. So if we put a stop to those kind of stereotypes, if we bring about a change in our families, definitely the society will also change. And children will listen to their mothers. So that is something which we should do. Ah, yes, Raja Lakshmi, this fairy tales. We need to rewrite those fairy tales. A girl having such long hair, waiting in a big, what we say, mansion, waiting for a prince to come and rescue her, and then he climbs, over her hair and all. What kind of rubbish are we just telling our daughters? And what are we asking? What are we expecting them to believe in? A Cinderella, the sole aim in her life is to marry a prince. What kind of fairy tales? So yes, we need to rewrite those fairy tales.
Vishwajit Borman has raised his hand. Please ask your question. And then Borman should react. Vishwajit Borman, are you available?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am,
Yes,
for
Vishwajit.
yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for wonderful presentation. Madam, when we talk about the equity and equality, equality likes you have said equality likes sameness and equity as a tool of fairness. Madam, so far I understand
As
those
I told
who
you, na, absolutely.
hello, madam. So far, I understand
Yes.
those who historically discriminated and equitable injustice happened for them. Some preferential treatment as a means of reservation, provision, or exist in our constitution for reaching their mainstream in the society. Ma'am, at present, the constitutional provision for reaching their mainstream, those who enjoy the facilities and they become and they reach the mainstream in the society. Do you think, ma'am, this provision are justifiable for them at present?
See, what I want to say is we live in a gendered one thing. Okay? So absolute equality will be a source of injustice. Okay? Unless and until we remove the disadvantages that a person is subjected to because of his gender, till the time we don't remove those disadvantages, equality is meaningless. Then coming to reservation and all, it is important because that is what is the objective of equity. That unless and until you provide them a reservation, they will never be able to compete openly with those people who are already privileged, who already belong to the privileged class. But then, as Pranjal had raised a question that see, there has to be an end to reservation, or maybe within reservation also, it has to be a mindful reservation. So that it doesn't happen that those who have taken the benefit of reservation, they keep on taking the benefit of reservation, and those who actually deserve or for whom this reservation is meant, it becomes inaccessible for them. So reservation is a good tool towards equity. Okay? In order to ensure, see, equity is a tool for equality. So reservation is good, but it has to be a mindful reservation.
Okay, Bornam, Savarya, please.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Thank you for the wonderful session. Ma'am, I just wanted to pick your brain on one thing that I have been following for quite a while now. There have been some cases where the issue of equal pay have come up, even in case of professional competing athletes, then in the entertainment industry as well. So, and even in the US women's football team, they have been having case that has been going on for the past, I think, 3 or 4 years, in which the women's team led by Megan Rapinoe, the USA women's soccer team's captain, felt that they had been underpaid, but as far as I am aware, that case was taken out of court, where the opposition team and the federation, they said that in actual practice, women have had more salary being paid to them in terms of performance bonuses, and they have played more than the men's team. That is one particular case. Secondly, very recently, I think it was a couple of months back, 2-3 months back, when somebody had asked the cricketer in the Indian women's team, I forgot who the player was, and about the pay gap between the male and female players. And then the response was that this is, I'm quoting not verbatim, but this is from one of the female athletes and female cricketers of Indian cricket team, who said that the day when I start bringing in people back to the stadium and I can generate in terms of revenue, then I would probably be okay with getting the same amount of salary or performance bonuses that my counterparts get. So, ma'am, what is your take on the matter? I'd like to have your opinion on the same.
See, as it is, the thing is, because obviously we all know that there are more people who are following men's cricket than people who are following women's cricket. So in terms of revenue generation, that is something which justifies. Okay. Because if it is something, if their salaries are based upon the revenue that is being generated, so obviously as the sport will develop, as the sport will grow, the problem is when we are not focusing on developing that particular sport for women, or when the state or the organizers, they are not putting that much of an energy and effort in advertising a women's sport as compared to the energy and time they spend on advertising the male sport. So that could be a problem thing. Otherwise, if there is a discrimination based on revenue generation, that is what, from where the revenue comes, so that would be justified. But when you talk about the entertainment industry, again, then people say that, see, there are people who will be coming more to watch Akshay Kumar's movies as compared to female actors' movies. So then again, it is all driven by that. Market is driven by demand, as they say it. So that would be something which justifies. But when we talk about the organized sector, when we talk about an organization where the woman is doing equal work, then there is no justification for denying her equal wages when she is putting an equal amount of an effort, equal amount of a labor. So that is something. So there should be a basic minimal level, as I feel, in the sports as well as in the entertainment industry also, depending on the work. So there should be a basic equality which should exist for men as well as women. Beyond that, it could be market driven.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Dimik said the argument that women make better teacher than men is also gender stereotypes. Is there any scientific study that indicates women are better teachers than men?
Absolutely no, not at all. There is no such thing that women are better homemakers, women are better teachers, women are better air hostesses, flight stewards, flight attendants for that matter. There is no such study. Or women are better nurses. There are such good male nurses.
Also, Himaki Fukon has an observation regarding the third gender community who are treated as outsider of the mainstream society. I think there is a network issue. Am I audible to all?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think there is a network issue at ma'am's end. Okay, ma'am has left the meeting. I think there is a network issue. So thank you all the participants for your observations and interactions with the resource persons. So we are going to wind up the session here, and the next session will be started at 12. Thanks to all.
Madam,
Yes, please.
Madam,
Yes, please.
PPT, please share the PPT.
No, sir, she has not sent us the PPT. If you would like to watch the session again, you can watch the session in YouTube, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks to all.